What you get when you mix brilliant engineers, Cold War paranoia, and a dash of science fiction? You get airplanes that look like pancakes, barrels, and even UFOs. These are the 5 of the strangest aircraft ever built, and none of them quite figured out how to fly straight. I'm Bill, and this is Buffalo Airpark. Let's dive in. The island of misfit airplanes. You know how some designers just love to challenge gravity, even if gravity always wins the rematch? Well, these 5 flying contraptions prove that sometimes the most ambitious ideas lead to the most bizarre failures. Today we're taking a ride through the world of experimental flying saucers, tail-sitters, and one man's homemade Cold War fighter. The kitchen prototypes, Vought V173 and the XF5U. First up, we've got the Vought V173, affectionately and hilariously nicknamed the Flying Pancake. Who looks at an airplane and thinks, yeah, that looks like breakfast? Its designer, Charles Zimmerman, had a bold idea: build an airplane that's basically all wing. That meant massive lift and short takeoffs. 2 tiny 8-horsepower engines, the kind found in a Piper Cub, powered 2 enormous 16.5-foot propellers that blasted air over the entire wing. The result? It could almost hover. The V173 could land at a ridiculous 22 miles per hour and take off vertically if it had a decent headwind. Even Charles Lindbergh took it for a spin and called it easy to handle, nearly impossible to stall. Now, here's where it gets weird. During one flight, pilot Richard Burroughs had to make an emergency beach landing. To avoid hitting sunbathers, he locked the brakes and the whole plane flipped upside down. Nobody got hurt, and the wooden airframe barely took a scratch. The only casualty was someone's beach towel found under the wreckage. The Navy was impressed enough to fund a fighter version, the XF5U, nicknamed Skimmer. This one had 2 monstrous 1,350 horsepower radial engines. But during testing, the complex gearbox system shook itself silly during taxi trials. Before engineers could fix it, the jet age arrived, and the Navy scrapped the project in 1947. Fun fact, the XF5U's airframe was so solid they had to bring in a wrecking ball to destroy it. The Cold War flying saucer, Avrocar VZ-9. Fast forward to the Cold War, Canada decided it was their turn to build a flying saucer, the Avrocar VZ-9. This circular wonder used a central turbo rotor powered by 3 jet engines to generate lift through the Coanda effect, a sort of air cushion underneath the craft. The Army wanted a flying Jeep. The Air Force wanted a Mach 3.5 disc fighter that could zoom to 100,000 feet. Neither got what they wanted. The Avrocar's test rig caught fire 3 times, scaring the engineers so badly they built the VZ-9 as a safer option. Spoiler, it wasn't. When it tried to lift off, it would start hubcapping, wobbling violently like a spinning hubcap that's about to fly off your car. Above 3 feet, it became uncontrollable. Its top speed, 35 miles an hour. Its flight ceiling, about the height of a bar stool. One Army general was so confident he declared that the Huey helicopter would be the last one they'd ever buy. Oops. The French barrel that flew, Sneakma C450 Coléoptère. Meanwhile, in France, someone looked at the Avrocar and thought, "You call that weird? Hold my espresso." Enter the Sneakma C450 Coléoptère, a jet-powered cylinder with a giant ring wing known as an annular wing. Coleopter literally means beetle, which is perfect, because this thing looked like one that forgot how to land. The concept was to take off vertically like a rocket, then transition to level flight. The pilot sat in a tilting seat that tried to keep him upright while the plane rotated around him. That's not unsettling at all. The Coleopter managed 8 test flights before a catastrophic 9th. During transition, pilot Auguste Morel lost control, the aircraft tumbled, and he barely ejected in time. He survived, badly injured, and the project was scrapped immediately. France quietly moved back to airplanes shaped like, well, airplanes. the backyard fighter, Bob Diemert's Defender. Now, the grand finale, a plane so strange it wasn't born in a lab, it came from a barn. Canadian stunt pilot and warbird restorer Bob Diemert decided in the 80s that he could build a simple, low-cost counterinsurgency fighter in his backyard. The result was the Defender, a canard pusher aircraft cobbled together for around $25,000. To fund it, Bob restored a rare Japanese Zero salvaged from the South Pacific. To test his aerodynamics, he mounted a bathroom scale on the back of a pickup truck, and somewhere along the way, he built a carpeted indoor swimming pool in his living room, just because he could. The Defender, as one critic said, looked like a glider crashed into a trailer carrying a refrigerator. It had chronic pitch instability and short coupling issues. When Bob argued with Canadian aviation authorities over wearing a parachute for its first flight, he lost, but only after proving the laws of aerodynamics weren't optional. It never flew properly, but it did become a cult legend, immortalized in the documentary The Defender. So there you have it, 5 flying oddballs that push the limits of imagination and sometimes physics itself. Whether it was the Pancake's prop-driven wizardry, the Avrocar's UFO illusion, or Bob Diemert's backyard bravado, each of these aircraft proved one thing: you can't innovate without a few crash landings along the way. And that wraps up another tale from aviation's stranger side. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies. And your secret projects tucked safely away in your barn.